What's up, folks? It's Parallax Abstraction, and welcome to another indie showcase. I've got another retro-style platformer here for you guys today, and you know I always like these sort of modern, retro-inspired games. This is called StretchBot. It came out back in February 2020, and it is an old-school platformer with some kind of interesting mechanics to it. It's got maybe just a little bit of Bionic Commando in it, something like that. It is interesting. I've played it for a little while now. I think it's catering to a very specific niche of retro platformer, if that makes any sense. I'm going to show you what I mean here in a little bit and sort of equate this to sort of my experience playing games like this in the past. It's interesting, but I don't know. You have to see about it here. So it's $10 US, $11.50 Canadian. It's available on Steam, on PC and Mac. I believe it's not on any consoles right now, so it's just on here. And this is by a developer called M5 Games, which is very small. It's only a couple people, I do believe. So yeah, let's fire this up here, and I'm going to show you what we're looking at here. Now, you're going to see that I've only put about an hour into this at this point, but this is not a very long game. It's pretty short. You could get through it relatively quick, but it does have some mechanics to it that are designed to keep you coming back and keep you interested. So I'm going to show you what we're going to look at here. So there are a few different worlds in it. You're going to see this has this sort of overmap thing like a lot of old school platformers a la Mario 3 or even more modern releases like Shovel Knight might have. And you can go through here, and as you progress through the game, you have these different levels, which you can return back to in order to get more, basically currency in order to buy more power-ups. So I'm going to show you a little bit about what this is like here. So I'm going to show you a previous level here so you can get an idea of what we're looking at. The mechanics of this are pretty simple. You've got a jump, an attack jump, and then a special item that you can use. So... and to see what this is like here. So now, if you're an old school platform fan or a retro gamer as well, just in general, you might. I'm curious how many people think this along with me, but you're going to see that this has a particular style. If you're someone who played a lot of stuff on the NES or the Super NES or the Genesis or things like that, you may look at this and go, this doesn't really look like anything familiar to me. And you probably won't fall through platforms like that. But if you're someone who used to play a lot of platformers like this on older home computers, this may be twinging something for you. You may be a little bit like, this kind of has that look, that type of animation style, and even that type of art style that you might have seen on something like an Amiga or an Atari ST, one of those 16-bit era home computers as opposed to home consoles. That's really the vibe I got from this. Think something like a while ago I took a look at the modern-day remaster of Gods, which was a very popular Amiga game back in the day. And that was the very similar idea to this. Now, Gods Remastered was literally that. It was a remaster. This is a game that is very much done in that original style. So here's one of the abilities here. We'll go over those in a bit. And this is going to appeal, I think, to a very specific type of person. I think it's going to appeal to people who do like old school platformers, but also people who like that old school home computer style of platformer. If you are an NES or a Super NES player, this may not quite grapple you, and I'm going to tell you why that is, and maybe you've seen a little bit already. This game is very slow moving. Oops. That doesn't kill me, that just hurts me. There we go. This game is very slow moving. The controls are, like, your character runs slow, he jumps slow. The control response is probably not as snappy as some old school platformer fans might be expecting. And that is very much a staple, though, of the old home computer style platformer. A lot of them were very much like that. And people who played on home computers, they did appreciate that. You know, they liked that. But I can appreciate both in their ways, but a lot of people will not have who only tended to play these old school platformers one way may not like this as much. It's got this interesting sort of take on pixel art. I think it looks pretty nice, actually. It's got some nice contrasting colors and things like that. The sound effects are somewhat reminiscent of those old home computer games. The music is definitely not. The music is quite a bit more modern sounding than that. The sound effects, one of the reasons I chose this level in particular is some of the sound effects, like those electrical lasers, can be a little grating in how much they repeat and just the tone of them. But again, not uncommon for that type of thing. So you have the ability to you can punch and you can run and you can jump, obviously, as you've seen. But what you can do is you have a series of different powers that you can unlock. Now this is kind of weird. I'm playing with an Xbox One controller. You can play this with a keyboard. And by pressing the select button on the controller, you bring this up, which allows you to purchase different upgrades. You can't do this in the overworld for some reason. You have to do it in a level, which I find kind of strange. But you see here, hammer punch, smash enemies all around, dash punch, and then the grapple. So, and you can swap between these on the fly if you look in the upper right there by pressing the Y button on the controller. And by pressing the B button, you utilize that. So that's the magnet, that's the swing punch, which has been very handy, and then that's the dash punch. And there's other things you can unlock as well. And these little sort of bar things that I'm picking up, these little chunks of metal, that's the currency. And you can keep going back into previous levels that you've already beaten in order to pick up more of those if you want, in order to facilitate more upgrades. And in later levels, those upgrades will become very necessary in order to progress. And in some cases, they'll just make things a little easier. In some cases, they're going to help you get to secrets. A lot of the levels do have secrets in them. You've probably seen me already smashing through a couple of the walls that have the cracks in them. Yeah, that's it. So you see there's one right up here. These are not optional, at least not optional, sorry. They are optional. They're not required. None of the ones I've come across so far have been required. But they are a good idea, especially if you want to get all of the extra power-ups. So you see in the upper left there, we've got gears. So this is a mechanic that you saw in a lot of platformers like newer Mario games. There's 3 of these gears in every level. And you don't have to pick them up. But if you can, and you don't screw up the jump, I usually did way better on this when I wasn't commentating over it. But if you pick up all the gears in a level, you get basically, well, the gears are necessary to unlock progression later. There are achievements tied to perfecting the gear count in levels. A certain number of gears are required to open up future levels as you go, but it's pretty generous. You don't have to get nearly perfect, at least at the point that I'm at. You don't have to get nearly perfect in order to be able to continue to progress. You may have to later on, I'm not sure about that. But also, if you go back to older levels with more power-ups, obviously, you're going to have an easier go of it. And that's going to make things, you know, it's going to be easier to go back and do the levels over again. That's a little thing there that's a little weird. The game does have controller support, but it doesn't often show controller prompts. So like there, to open that little chest of goodies, I had to, that was the B button, but it said K, which is the key on the keyboard, which is a little strange. I don't know why that's not there for a game that lists full controller support. And there are, at the end of every level, there is a boss. The bosses are their pattern memorization, which is again fitting for the type of retro platformer that this is, but it's pretty basic stuff. At the end of every level, this is kind of like the Mario flagpole. If you can punch through that floating dot that's in it, you get extra loot, basically extra junk like this. This game does have a story. There isn't much of one. This is kind of a dystopian future, and there's this evil kid scientist who's, you know, bent on using the robots and some other elements of the planet for his own ends, but he's going to destroy things. You're working with a resistance to try to take things back from him. That's basically it. It's a very, very basic sort of 8-bit kind of story, I guess, if you will. So this is an interesting level here. You know, things mix up a little bit. This is an auto-scrolling level, you know, again, kind of like old-school Mario and that. I mean, look, this game's an old-school platformer and it knows what it is. I'm not going to fault it for that. Taking inspiration from some of the best platformers ever made, that ain't nothing to fault with, you know what I'm saying? So, and you see you can also do this. I hadn't been showing this off. So if you press, if you jump and then hold down, you will jump and bounce off of enemies and also things in the environment like that, which can be helpful because you get like a nice big boost jump when you do that. So it allows you to get yourself up to places that you might not be able to otherwise, and that can enable you to do things like get those gears like that. None of the levels in this are particularly long. Some of them it'll take you a little while to beat as you learn them, but levels in this go very quick, which is good in the sense that, you can play this game in little bits at a time if you like. This is a pretty good lo-fi casual game that will run on, it'll run on a potato, so this is something you could run on a cheap laptop or a work computer or something like that to play in your lunch hour. And the way the levels progress definitely facilitates that. But at the same time, this doesn't seem like a long game. I believe it has 5 regions, and I missed it. I believe this game has 5 regions, so unless you want to 100% every level, and which has gotten harder as it's gone on, it's not going to take you too long to beat this. I mean, I've completed almost the entirety of 2 worlds here. And, like, I have the boss unlocked. I haven't done all these levels, but I have the boss unlocked, and I just hit the 1 hour mark in this game, to give you an idea. Let's take a look at what this boss is. I actually haven't seen it yet. I have fought the first boss. But, yeah, this is, as far as I can tell, a rookie effort from a small, I believe it's 2-person team. What is this? So yeah, Kid Scientist, this is the guy we're going after. You're trying to find out as well. You woke up in a junkyard while he and his henchmen were leaving, and you were trying to find out what was going on. This thing is kind of like a combination of steampunk and cyberpunk. It's a little weird. Yeah, the crystals they're mining are basically destroying the planet, and ultimately it's going to result in the death of everybody. And that's what you're trying to get him to stop. So the story's pretty basic, but it's pretty funny. Okay, so he doesn't care about the planet because he wants to leave, so that's a new revelation. So it looks like we're fighting the bodyguards this time instead of another robot. Yep. Oh, geez. Gotta bounce off them here. Oh, but they have lasers. Oh, jeez. There is an achievement in this game, I know, for not taking any damage during a boss fight, which I did not manage to pull off with the first one yet. I'm gonna say, unless things get hairier later, this fight is way easier than the original one. The first boss fight was quite a bit trickier than this. Yep, I'm done. That was really easy. Like, I'm not kidding. Compared to the first boss fight, this was pretty straightforward. Well, that was the most interesting death animation I've seen in a while. But we got a whole whack ton of loot here, so that's really cool. So there you go. And as you can see, we've unlocked other areas. Now, these 3 levels here, the ones with dots, I haven't even done. So ideally, to experience them, you would want to do those levels and also get the gears from them, because you can see here, I need 34 to unlock the second crystal mine. But you can already see that even by skipping several levels, like, I'm only 1 short, right? So unless the requirement goes way up, or this gets really, or it needs basically everything in order to get to the end, it's not going to take very long. So, and that's the thing with this. This game, again, is designed to appeal to a very small niche of platformer fan. Somebody who is going to want a platformer in the style of those older kinds that you would have found on home computers as opposed to consoles. And somebody who wants one that's relatively short and has a very particular play style. Is that worth $10? I don't know. You know, I have memories of these retro home computer platformers, but I'm not gonna lie, even as someone who mostly grew up a PC gamer, like, platformers, the consoles did it better, in my opinion. I still respect a lot of old school home computer platformers, but I don't believe most of them were a shining example of what the platformer genre could be. I will say the enemies are getting more challenging in this area that I've never been to before, so that is cool. And you see there in the upper left as well, you have a little meter, like that little tank. That is the amount that you can use these power-ups. That does not include, I believe, the magnet. No, it doesn't. So, you have to be mindful of that in later levels. So yeah, do I like this? If they were trying to emulate the things that I have said here, then they did a pretty good job. If they were trying to create something more akin to the console platformers, then I don't know how well they've done, to be honest. And recreating one of those old school computer platformers, that's cool, because there is a group of people who have fondness for those. Again, is it enough for to spend $10 on it? I don't know. It looks like it's going to be pretty short, and you can often get a lot of other stuff. You know, Shovel Knight has been way less than that, I don't know how many times, and Shovel Knight is one of the finest platformers ever made, period, in my opinion. And there's a number of other, you know, platformers are a dime a dozen, and there are other ones out there that I do think are more fun than this that routinely sell, if not normally sell, for less than $10. So, it's hard to say. If they're going for a niche, I can appreciate that. And I can respect that. And I hope there's enough fans of that niche to make this game a success and to, you know, support these devs more into the future. Oh, nice. I spend 1,000, I can get an extra heart. Yeah, I think I'll do that. But would I finish this right now? I don't know. I don't think so, to be honest with you. It's got some neat mechanics in it. You know, this stretch concept and the ability to do all these cool things with your, you know, with your arm power. It's cool. I just don't know if it's compelling enough for me against all the other platformers I could play. If I was looking for a game like this, I think there's better options, to be honest with you. But I wanted to show this off because, again, if you are among the demographic that I think and hope it's trying to cater, you may find it very interesting. You know, Gods Remastered, I thought, was a pretty good remastering of Gods from the Amiga. I was never the biggest fan of Gods on the Amiga, so I was kind of like, eh. But Gods has a very devout fan base, and that fan base probably really likes that remaster. That same group of people may very well enjoy this. So, I wanted to show that off. I wanted to show this off as something potentially for those people. Is it for me in the long term? Probably not, if I'm honest with you. But maybe it's for you, and I wanted to give you a chance to see what it's like. So yeah, that is StretchBot, developed by M5 Games. It is on Steam right now for $10 US for the PC and the Mac. You can also get it with the soundtrack if you want. Which is kind of interesting. It looks like just to add the soundtrack onto this is less than $5, so that's pretty good as well. If you like a nice sort of modern chiptune type thing, that could be cool for you. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you did like what you saw here, please click subscribe and click the bell so you can get notifications on future videos. Leave a thumbs up and drop a comment and let me know what you think about this. And in particular, if you are someone who's into this style of old school computer platformer, do you think this would be appealing to you? Because like I said, this looks very familiar to me in that respect, but those were never my biggest jam either. So I'd like to hear from people who have a fondness for that and see what they have to say about it. Maybe more up your alley than it was up mine. So thank you guys very much for watching, and I will see you on the next episode of Indie Showcase. You guys have yourselves a good one. Take it easy.